What kind of king watches his entire nation collapse and still refuses to surrender? The rivers turned to blood, the skies swarmed with death, children cried through the night. And yet Pharaoh hardened his heart again and again until Egypt became a graveyard. Moses stood in the middle of Pharaoh's palace, gripping the staff of God in his trembling hands. "Let my people go." The words echoed through the royal chambers like thunder. But Pharaoh laughed. The king of Egypt sat upon his golden throne, surrounded by soldiers, priests, and servants who feared him more than death itself. To Pharaoh, Moses was nothing more than an old shepherd making impossible threats. He had no army, no weapons, no kingdom. But what Pharaoh did not understand was that Moses did not come alone. And then the Nile changed. At sunrise, the people rushed toward the river for water, only to stop in horror. The Nile had turned blood red. Fish floated lifeless across the surface. The smell of death filled the air. Women screamed as they dropped their jars. Farmers fell to their knees in panic. Egypt's greatest source of life had become a river of death. Still, Pharaoh refused. Days passed. Then came the frogs, thousands of them, no, millions. They crawled into ovens, into beds, into food, into the palace itself. Pharaoh woke to frogs leaping across his chamber floor. The entire nation was drowning in chaos. Finally, Pharaoh summoned Moses. "Pray to your God," he demanded. "Take these creatures away, and I will let your people go." Moses prayed, and the frogs died. Piles of rotting bodies filled the streets of Egypt. The smell was unbearable, but the moment relief came, Pharaoh changed his mind again. And that was when fear truly began spreading across Egypt. Without warning, dust rose from the ground and became swarms of gnats. They covered people's faces, filled their eyes, bit into their skin. Even Pharaoh's own magicians stepped back in terror. "This is the finger of God," they whispered. But Pharaoh would not listen. Then flies came. Thick black swarms darkened the skies over Egypt. The buzzing never stopped. People could not eat, could not sleep, could not escape. Yet strangely, the land of Goshen, where the Israelites lived, remained untouched. For the first time, Egypt realized this was no natural disaster. This was judgment. Still, Pharaoh hardened his heart, and then the livestock began to die. Horses collapsed in the fields, camels fell beside the roads, cattle rotted beneath the burning sun. Egypt's wealth vanished overnight. Farmers wept openly as entire herds disappeared before their eyes. But Pharaoh still refused. Then came the boils. Painful sores erupted across the skin of every Egyptian. Rich and poor alike cried out in agony. Even the magicians who once mocked Moses could no longer stand before him. Their bodies were covered in suffering. The palace itself had become a place of misery. But Pharaoh's pride was stronger than his fear, and heaven answered again. Moses stretched out his staff toward the sky. The clouds darkened, thunder exploded across the land, then fire began falling from heaven. Hailstones crashed into homes, shattered trees, and destroyed crops. Flames danced inside the storm itself. People ran for shelter, screaming as Egypt was torn apart by fire and ice. Servants rushed to Pharaoh in panic. "Please," they begged him, "Egypt is ruined." For a moment, it seemed the king finally broke. "I have sinned," Pharaoh confessed. "Ask your God to stop this storm." Once again, Moses prayed, and once again the skies became silent. But when the danger passed, Pharaoh hardened his heart again, and then came the locusts. A black cloud appeared on the horizon. At first, people thought it was smoke, but it moved. The swarm covered the sun itself. Locusts devoured every green thing left in Egypt. Nothing survived. Fields became deserts. Trees stood stripped and lifeless. Famine now stared Egypt in the face. Even Pharaoh's own officials turned against him. "How long will this man be a snare to us?" they cried. "Let the Israelites go." But pride is a dangerous prison. Pharaoh refused again. Then came the darkness. Not ordinary darkness. This darkness felt alive. For 3 days, Egypt was swallowed in blackness, so deep people could not even see their own hands. No one moved, no one worked, no one spoke. Parents held their children tightly in silence. Every sound felt terrifying, and somewhere inside the darkness, Egypt waited, because everyone knew something worse was coming. Then Moses delivered the final warning. "This is what the Lord says," he declared. "At midnight, death will pass through Egypt." The palace fell silent. Even Pharaoh's breathing seemed to stop. Moses' voice shook with sorrow as he continued. "Every firstborn son in Egypt will die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh to the firstborn of the servant girl." A chill swept through the room, but Pharaoh turned away. So the Israelites prepared. They marked their doors with lamb blood, just as God commanded. Inside their homes, families gathered quietly. Outside, Egypt slept uneasily beneath the shadow of judgment. Then midnight came, and suddenly a cry pierced the darkness, then another and another. Before long, all of Egypt was screaming. Mothers held lifeless children in their arms. Fathers collapsed in grief. Palaces and prisons alike echoed with mourning. Death had visited every home. Even Pharaoh's own son was gone. The mighty king who once mocked God now sat broken inside a palace filled with silence and death. And before sunrise, Pharaoh summoned Moses one final time. "Go," he whispered weakly, "take your people and leave." After centuries of slavery, the Israelites walked out of Egypt free. But the story was not over, because even after all the plagues, even after death itself entered his home, Pharaoh's heart still burned with pride, and soon he would chase the Israelites straight toward the Red Sea, not knowing that an even greater miracle was waiting for him there. But that is another story. The 10 plagues were not just acts of destruction. They were warnings. Warnings that pride can destroy even the most powerful kingdom. Warnings that power means nothing before God. Warnings that a hardened heart can lead an entire nation into ruin. And the terrifying truth is this: Pharaoh had countless chances to change, but he waited too long. If you enjoyed this story and want more powerful biblical stories told in cinematic detail, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and turn on notifications, because the next story may be even more unbelievable than this one.